You always see the headline, how Gurugram is the next future of India. But the bigger question is, can India surpass America? How did the city evolve so fast that everyone is suddenly now afraid of India? So as an American traveler coming here for the first time, I want to talk about the 10 biggest things that shocked me the most about the city of Gurgaon.
So get ready cause there will be stuff I like about it, but also a few things I wasn't expecting to see at all. And at the end, I'll tell you what I really felt about the city.
But if you told me before that everything I'm seeing here was only a small village like 20 years ago, I would never have believed that. In the same way, I couldn't believe when I found out the locals here are nothing like what the media told us. There's nothing wrong with them, bro. I heard stories of the people of Gurgaon being rude and how they would chase you all the way to your apartment in the middle of the day, and how Gurgaon is the city of spas and the most shady people live here, etc. Seriously, where is the spa? I'm just asking for a friend, bro. Everyone that I've talked with, they're just normal people. They're busy and don't want any trouble. And some drivers, when I was trying to cross the street, would actually stop their car for me so I could go ahead. Okay, I have never experienced that in India, and rarely do I see that in America as well.
And what's even better is that most people don't really pay attention to you in the bad way. They're just minding their own business. Even for foreigners like myself, I almost never get stared at when I was going around in the city.
But the next thing is what I have to complain, and is that flooding is the big issue, even when there is no rain. Sometimes there will be random ponds of water, and I heard a few hours of rain could literally flood a great chunk of the city. One of my Indian friends came to Gurgaon to work saying, where is our tax money going if it's not being used for city development? Or making the subscribe button more smashable if you enjoy the video so far. Bro, look, I know the government should be responsible, but you also see people tossing away trash, and that can choke the drainage, right? They should be responsible, right? So perhaps Gurgaon needs new planning if the current city planning is not effective anymore.
And it's not like American cities don't get flooded, bro. We get that every single year as well. So I can't say who is having it worse. But if it only took 2 decades for the small village to become the cyber city we're seeing today, it shouldn't be that impossible to fix a flooding issue, right?
Well, let's hope that can happen in a few years. But the one thing I never have to wish for in the cyber city of India is actually my personal safety. Now, a lot of my friends here are saying, oh, you need to live in a good neighborhood, don't go out alone, stay away from shady people, blah blah blah. But you're totally safer than your neighbor, Delhi. I think we can all agree with that. Nobody asked me for any spare change for anything. But the downside is, when you look like you need help, they also may or may not come to you right away. One thing's for sure though, Gurgaon is safer than the big cities in America, where I can't even go out to do some shopping without worrying if my neighbor is breaking into my house. And the next thing I want to bring up is, did you notice how that buses in Gurgaon don't seem to stop at where they're supposed to be? Bro, never once did I manage to catch a bus I wanted that is shown on the map. And when I asked the locals, they also didn't know how or where to wait for the bus. One of them even told me that the bus stops you see are just for decoration, bro. I was like, are you kidding me? Since everything is owned by private companies, they have no reason to give you good and reliable public transport. So many people I know depend entirely on Uber to go from one place to the next.
But also, since there's only 2 highways going in and out of the city, I noticed that a lot of times, the traffic is literally you can't even call it traffic. It doesn't even move. So I can totally see how driving to work every single day could be a living hell for a lot of you guys.
But since we're talking about taxi and Uber, I want to get this out of the way. And that is to my biggest surprise. Taxi and auto drivers don't really bother you, because in Delhi, I can't even walk down the street to have lunch without 10 to 20 drivers stopping right next to me and saying, taxi, do you need taxi? And then I cross the border to Gurgaon and they suddenly all lost interest in me. What kind of beautiful magic is that? But the downside is, when you do want to take a taxi to go from from that state one shopping mall to the next, well, now they're reluctant to take you unless it's a route they feel like going. Up next, we have the lack of green public spaces. And I even heard a report saying how the size of green spaces in Gurgaon went down by nearly 20% in the last decade or so. And there's nothing but concrete buildings and a lot of malls, especially when you look at your typical American cities like San Francisco, filled with random parks and greenery and even an ocean to look at. So I can see how Gurgaon can seem lifeless in comparison.
One of my local friends who works here likes to call this place a literal desert. But I'm confused, like, how can it be a desert when it's literally flooding all the time? But if everything is owned by private companies, then they have no reason to make your life better. Then why would they give you any green spaces to relax in?
But if there's one aspect of Gurgaon that Americans can only dream of having, then it is the cost of living, especially when it comes to renting or buying a house. Most of my friends in Gurgaon make over $2,000 a month. Now that in itself is already so much more than a lot of the average American income, especially after paying the crazy taxes. But they only pay $300 a month for rent, probably $100 for food, and another $100 for transportation. So of course India is getting wealthier while America is in poverty. You see the big difference here? Saving money as possible in Gurgaon, but in America, everyone I know is living in debt they can never repay because rents eat up about 50% of your income and the rest goes straight into the overpriced American grocery and restaurant food. The sidewalks are also way better in Gurgaon than all of the American cities I know. And it's weird because I always hear complaints about the road being bad and borderline unwalkable. But in reality, this might have been the most walkable city in all of India that I have personally traveled to. But nothing shocked me more than the random pile of massive trash you see littered throughout the city. And sometimes they're even next to the headquarters of some big name companies and luxury high-rising apartments. And you turn around, oh boy, yeah, there's another pile of rubbish. Now, in America, we also have this issue. In fact, my university is located in one of the most expensive neighborhoods in California, which theoretically should look and feel like one of those Hollywood movies where everything is tidy and nothing is out of control, right? But there's literally one right outside of the campus. But what can you do about it? It's owned by private companies. If they don't want to clean up, well, I guess it stays there forever.
So is America in danger? Should we worry about the cyber city of India becoming the center of the world? If you look at Delhi like 15 years ago, it looked way different than what you're seeing today. So maybe 10-20 years down the line, the next New York City, Wall Street, and Silicon Valley will all be found inside the beautiful nation of India.
But that is why I can never understand why Americans know so little about India, when they should really take India seriously. Because in this video, I'm going over the worst things Americans still say about India, and trust me, you don't want to know what they're saying.